Hello, everybody. My name is Izar. My student ID is 230289887. Today, we are here to present the topic of how the developing region across the world can alleviate the poverty by growing their GDP. Poverty is not something that you have the lack of access to the income. Poverty is more about your lack of access to the essentials of the life, food, shelter, and the cloth. According to the World Bank 2023 report, over 700 million people who are still living on less than $2 a day, which means they have lack of access to the basic necessities of the life. In our research, we will try to establish the link between the growth in GDP and the poverty alleviation. There is a significant evidence are available. One of them is quoted in the presentation through the World Bank report 2021. They stated that if there is 1% increase in the GDP per capita, it will significantly affect the poverty alleviation in developing countries specifically by 1.7%. So the question is, why do some countries around the globe, the developing nations, still struggling to grow their GDP? And why are they so struggling to convert that a minor growth in GDP into the human development? GDP is seen as a tool for measuring the economic performance, whether it's economic growth or economic development, but we are here using this tool for measuring the human development. If there's a significant increase in the GDP, but it's not going to turn into the human well-being or human development, that's not going to be helpful. So there must be inclusivity in the growth. There must be more employment from low skill to high skill, more fair taxation policies, and more good governance, where the government should spend more towards the healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Improving the living standards, allowing better access to the housing, nutrition, healthcare, education, directly linked to the poverty alleviation steps and initiatives. Why are some nations still struggling when it's come to the growth in GDP? There are a long list of the barriers they are facing. We have listed them, 4 of them that they are on the top line. They probably have the limited capital access. And when it's come to the capital access, we specifically focusing on the microfinance. They have poor and obsolete infrastructure, whether it's a road structure, whether it's a train, whether other means of communication or transportations, they are not updated, or they are not sufficient to support and back the economy. They have very low SME support. SME could be a factor through which you can grow your GDP significantly. And the governance and corruption is also a main reason for their overall slow-moving growth in GDP. In our research, we are focusing on Pakistan. And the question is, what motivates us to take up this case? Pakistan have lots of resources, lots of natural resources, minerals, mines, 4 seasons, weather, climate, and Pakistan strategical a situation like where the Pakistan is situated in the region, in South Asian region. Pakistan neighbored with world's two largest population, grow economy. One is India and the other is China. But still, Pakistan is lacking to turn all of its resources into fast-moving GDP. Untapped human capital, Pakistan is among those world's very few nations, those who have a bulge of youth, but unfortunately, most of them are unemployed or underemployed. Pakistan is world's fifth largest population, but not turning that into the speed up of their economy. Pakistan GDP is also slow moving due to just a 40% contribution by the SMEs towards the total GDP. These factors helps us and motivates us to study the Pakistan's and suggest some reforms for the poverty alleviation through growth in their GDP. I'd like to request my next member to come forward, please.
Hello, my name is Mohammed Bilal. My ID name is 2328505. I'm here to discuss about the current barriers or restriction for small investors for growth in Pakistan's economy. First one, I will discuss about access to finance. Only 4% small investors are happy to invest in Pakistan to for the growth of Pakistan economy and to reduce the poverty in return. So it's a basic negative effect is a limit business expansions, hiring, innovation, stunt job creation, and income growth is very low. The second one is a weak export linkages with the other countries or with the other Asian, Europeans, or with America as well. Poor quality certifications of our investors as well. Lack of export financing, low trade awareness than others. So its negative impact same as a globally foreign exchange inflows and competitive upgrading. The next is outdated tax and legal systems, complex filing, unclear complaints procedure, legal ambiguities. So these are all creating a negativity to a state sport and public investment. They are danger to invest in this country. Digital divide, low uptake of e-commerce. They are not taking a knowledge of e-commerce or online platforms, that how they work, cloud technology, digital payments. So these are all SMEs lose market share, efficiency, and cannot up to the mark, especially in post-COVID digital economies. The next page, the next one is tourism underutilization because we are not using our uh, areas for the tourism to come over there. The tourism infrastructure is very low. We are not promoting the our beautiful areas like northern areas in Pakistan. So we missed opportunity for a job creators, export revenue, and economic diversification. The inadequate infrastructure in my country, poor transport system, logistic networks, limited access to modern communication tools that we can use for more growth in my country. So these are all areas create increase operational costs that is very high in my country and reduce SMEs access to a broader markets to grow in their own area with the security. The next one is a political instability in my country and governance issues. They make a weak rules, inconsistent policies, and they change every time. And corruption is a very high that are hindering long-term planning for SMEs. Labor market rigidities, rigid labor laws, high minimum wages, these are all factors that are increasing labor costs and hampers adaptability. Please forward next page. Now I will discuss a solution, a global comparative approach that will help to accommodate these issues. Why this approach we should follow? Because other countries, Vietnam, Rwanda, and Bangladesh follow these policy and changed their governance system and invested in infrastructure to grow their economics and reduce the poverty. So what they did, SMEs finance, formalization and support structures, digital and physical infrastructure, investment, export competitiveness and employment generation. They did all these areas. Governance reforms and institution strengthening is a very high. So why these all factors matter for my country, Pakistan? This cross-country analysis lays a foundation for customized reform proposals that have increased the GDP of the other countries that should follow in my country to grow their GDP and that meaningfully reduce the poverty. The structured cross-country analysis strengthens innovation by offering reform templates that are both practical and adaptable according to a UNDP 2023. The next member will discuss.
Hello everyone, my name is Shahabuddin and my student ID is 2302848, and today I'll be sharing some important key insights from successful global case studies like Vietnam, Rwanda and Bangladesh. And we will see how these can inform high impact reforms for Pakistan. Let's start with the Vietnam. Vietnam had three big roadblocks, including limited access to finance for SMEs, complicated and outdated business regulations, and weak integration with global markets. So, what did they do? They introduced credit guarantee schemes that helped banks lend more to SMEs. SMEs credit access rose from 40% to 68%. They created a one window digital registration system, which cuts down business registration time from 60 days to just 10 days. And it helped SMEs meet international standards so they could export. As a result, Vietnam's GDP kept growing at a rate of 6 to 7%, and exports rose by 350%, and SME sector really flourished. Next slide, please. In the next slide, we will talk about Rwanda. Rwanda had major challenges like corruption, poor infrastructure, lack of youth employment, and low access to finance, especially in rural areas. So Rwanda took following steps to tackle these issues. They set up anti-corruption courts and introduced zero tolerance policy, which built trust with the investors. They invested in TVET programs that are basically skill-based programs, and they supported entrepreneurship programs for youth, leading to a 30% drop in youth unemployment. Through microfinance and SECOs, they expanded SME credit, and business registrations rose by 60%. And they made a big push for electricity, going from just 6% access to 47%. All of this added up to a strong result with a 7.5% GDP growth for over a decade. Now in the next slide, we'll talk about Bangladesh. Bangladesh took a labor-first approach, investing in the garment sector, creating 4 million jobs, mostly for women. They used microfinance to bring 50% of the people into the real formal financial system. Their export processing zones attracted FDI and pushed exports by 80%. And through youth skills training, 70% of those who were trained got successfully placed in jobs. Bangladesh focused on jobs, inclusion, and exports, and it really paid off. So now the key question is that what can Pakistan learn and apply? Next slide, please. There are four high impact reforms that are both relevant and realistic for Pakistan. Number one, SME credit guarantees. Just like Vietnam and Bangladesh did, we can introduce public-private credit guarantees through institutions like State Bank of Pakistan and SECP. This would encourage banks to lend to SMEs, leading to more jobs, more growth, and more investment. Second one is digital business registration. We have already a base SECP's e-services platform. We can scale this to make it easier and faster to register a business, bringing more SMEs into the formal economy, which boosts both tax revenue and competitiveness. The third one is microfinance and mobile banking. With platforms like EasyPass and JazzCash, we have what we need to expand access to finance, especially for rural women and youth. Rural and agro SME support, just like Bangladesh, Pakistan can increase support for rural SMEs and agriculture through training subsidies and improved infrastructure to raise productivity and to create more jobs in less developed regions. To wrap up, these are not just global success stories. They are real examples of what can work for Pakistan too. By focusing on these reforms, Pakistan can also unlock growth that is not just fast, but fair, job rates, and inclusive. Thank you. Now I would like my next member to continue the presentation.
Hi, my name is Muzaffar Iqbal. My student ID is 220777623, and I will explain the policy recommendation for Pakistan. Promote growth that benefits everyone by implementing the strategic changes. The number one is improving the ability of small and medium-sized enterprises to obtain the financing. And this means that making it easier for small and medium enterprises to get the loans, investments, and any other form of financial supports. Number two is making the registration for the business easier. Here we have the example of Rwanda. They increased the tax revenue up to 23% after digitalization registration. Third one is by increasing the agricultural productivity and by investing in the rural infrastructure, the Rwanda decreased the poverty from 66% to 9%. And the last one is to making the international market access easier and boosting. So Vietnam increases the SME up to 35%. Next slide, please. So now addressing the energy shortages. Here we have the example of Kenya, where they increase the 70%, they increase 70% of electricity now comes from renewable resources. And now tackling youth immigration. If we invest on the tech and manufacturing to create the jobs for the young ones, so we can reduce up to 12% for the immigrations. So now I will discuss the strengthening governance and the rules of law. Introduction to the anti-corruption, making the anti-corruption environment and the foreign direct investment. The Vietnam got the 15% annually post reforms. Shift in educational focus. If we change the educational system to bringing it practical and skill-based, so we can reduce the unemployment up to 20%. Additional recommendation by the utilization of the natural resources and investing in the tourist sector and environmental and the job creation, we can increase the GDP. Next slide, please. Now, I will discuss the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strength. The young population is the strength of entrepreneurial venture and the strategic geography, as Pakistan is located on a well good area where the China, Central Asia, and the Middle East is in the good access. The weakness is this that the 4% of the total private sector reaches the SME, according to the report. But the poor legal system is also the weakness, which reduces the investor confidence. And if I talk about the opportunity, so the digital expansion, like the e-commerce, digital payments, are the opportunities which can increase the GDP, and the traditional and the regional trade, like the CPEC. Pakistan can get into the CPEC, which is helpful for increasing the GDP, like from the China-Pakistan economic corridor. And the threat is power shortage. If there will be a persistent energy issue, so this will hinder the industrial growth, and the policy inconsistency is also the threat. In conclusion, by focusing on the key research areas, improving the small and medium financing, and simplifying the business regulation, investing in the rulers, infrastructure, and enhancing the governments, Pakistan can catalyze the sustainable growth and drive the poverty evaluation in a good way. So this is the conclusion. According to the Drucker in 1993, he told the best way to predict the future is to create it. Next slide, please. These are the references you can see. This one slide is 50 number references. Next one. This one, these one are the references. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. Thank you.